Hi, I'm Alina. I've owned this beautiful two-story house for over 20 years. Paid off the mortgage 5 years ago, which feels pretty damn good at my age. It's got 4 bedrooms, a gorgeous kitchen I remodeled myself, and a backyard where I grow the best tomatoes in the neighborhood. 2 years ago, my daughter Melissa and her husband Derek hit a rough patch financially. He'd been laid off, and they couldn't keep up with their apartment rent. Mom, we just need a few months to get back on our feet. Derek has some promising interviews lined up. Of course, honey. Family takes care of family. I cleared out my craft room and made it comfortable for them. A few months turned into 6, then a year, then 2. I didn't mind too much. I loved having Melissa around again, and Derek was handy with house repairs. They contributed what they could to groceries, though never any actual rent. We fell into a comfortable routine, until yesterday. I was making coffee when Melissa walked into the kitchen with that look, the one she's had since childhood when she wants something but knows she shouldn't ask. Mom, we need to talk about something important. Sure, what's up? Derek's parents are having some financial problems. They're losing their condo in Florida. That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, well, we've invited them to come live here. I nearly choked on my coffee. Here? In this house? Where exactly would they stay? Melissa fidgeted with her wedding ring. Well, Derek and I thought they could take the master bedroom. It makes the most sense since it has the attached bathroom. My bedroom? And where am I supposed to sleep? Derek walked in then, arms crossed defensively. We've discussed this, and we think it would be best if you found your own place. Maybe that senior apartment complex they just built downtown? I stared at them both, letting their words sink in. They wanted to kick me out of my own house, the house I owned outright, to make room for Derek's parents. You want me to leave my home so your parents can move in? Mom, don't be difficult. Richard and Barbara need help, and this house is really too big for just one person anyway. This isn't just some house, Melissa. This is my home. I own it. Look, we've been carrying the weight around here for years, Derek cut in. You barely contribute to the bills anymore. That was a bold-faced lie. I paid every utility and property tax myself. Melissa sighed dramatically. They're arriving next Saturday. We need you out by Thursday. I should have screamed. I should have thrown them both out right then. Instead, I smiled. A calm, knowing smile that clearly unsettled them both. Later that afternoon, my neighbor Sandra spotted me sitting on the front porch. You okay, Alina? You look like you've seen a ghost. Not a ghost, Sandra. Just the true face of my daughter. What happened? They're trying to force me out of my own house for Derek's parents. Sandra's eyes widened. They can't do that. This is your house. Exactly. And they've forgotten who holds the deed. What are you going to do? I took a slow sip of my tea. I'm going to remind them. Thoroughly. After talking with Sandra, I went straight to my home office and pulled out all my financial records. Something didn't add up about Derek's parents suddenly needing to move in. I called my old friend Marcus, who's been my attorney since my divorce 15 years ago. This is absolutely ridiculous. They can't evict you from your own property? I know that logically, Marcus, but I need to understand what they're trying to pull. Can you come over tomorrow? I'll be there at 10. Don't sign anything before I arrive. That night, I pretended to be asleep when I heard Melissa and Derek talking in the kitchen. I crept down the hallway and listened from around the corner. Your mom didn't freak out like you said she would. I know. That smile was weird. Do you think she suspects anything? How could she? We've been careful. Dad said he'd transfer the first payment once they're settled. What if she won't leave? The closing date is in 3 months. She will. We'll make living here unbearable if we have to. My blood ran cold. They had been planning this for months, not days. The next morning, I drove to the local coffee shop where Derek and I used to have our Sunday chats before things got tense. The barista, Jamie, always remembered my order. The usual, Alina. Haven't seen you in weeks. Been busy. Hey, Jamie. Derek mentioned his parents were having money troubles. Have you heard anything about that? Jamie raised an eyebrow. Money troubles? Richard was in here last month flashing photos of their new boat. They just got back from a cruise to the Bahamas. My suspicions deepened. When I got home, I checked my mailbox and found a letter addressed to Derek that had been delivered to the wrong address. The return address was from a real estate agency. I shouldn't have, but I opened it. Congratulations on your upcoming closing. Please find enclosed the preliminary documents for the sale of 1423 Oak Street, my address. They were planning to sell my house. When Marcus arrived, I showed him everything I'd found. This is fraud in the making. Have you checked your property records recently? We went online to the county records site. The house was still in my name, but there was a recent search history on my computer for how to transfer property to family members. They can't force you to sign anything, but be careful. If they're desperate enough, they might try to claim you're mentally incompetent. Later that afternoon, Melissa came home early from work. I decided to confront her directly. Why are Richard and Barbara really moving here? I know they don't have financial problems. Her face flushed. You've been snooping. It's not snooping when it's my house. Are you planning to sell it? Mom, you're being paranoid. They need our help. You mean my help? My house. You're too old to manage this place alone anyway. We're doing you a favor. By kicking me out? By giving you a chance to downsize. You should be grateful. Grateful? For being scammed by my own daughter? This is exactly why we didn't tell you everything. You always overreact. Is it overreacting to not want to be homeless? You won't be homeless. There's a perfectly good retirement community that I can't afford on my pension. Derek's parents will help with that. So they do have money? She stormed off without answering, slamming her bedroom door. I immediately called the real estate agency from the letter and pretended to be inquiring about selling my house. The agent confirmed there was already a listing contract signed by a Derek and Melissa Walker. They had forged my signature. After discovering the forged documents, I changed tactics. Instead of confronting them further, I decided to play along. Saturday came, and with it, Richard and Barbara's arrival. They pulled up in a brand new Mercedes SUV packed with expensive luggage. So much for financial troubles. Welcome to my home, I said as they walked through the door. Barbara barely acknowledged me, brushing past to inspect the living room. The photos didn't do it justice. We'll need to update these curtains, though. And that old couch has to go, Richard added, testing my furniture with disdain. Melissa shot me a warning look. Mom, why don't you help Barbara with her bags? I smiled sweetly. Of course! Right this way to the guest room. Guest room? No, dear, we're taking the master suite. Melissa said it was all arranged. Did she now? How thoughtful of her to volunteer my bedroom. Over the next few days, they completely took over. Barbara rearranged my kitchen cabinets without asking. Richard commandeered my garage workspace for his collectibles. They changed the thermostat, the TV channels, even the coffee I'd been brewing for years. This is how we do things, became their favorite phrase. Meanwhile, I started packing boxes and researching apartments within earshot. I made sure they saw me filling out applications for senior living communities. Their smug expressions told me they believed they'd won. What they didn't see was the small recording device I kept in my pocket, or the camera I installed in the living room clock, disguised as a memory project I was working on. Wednesday night, I suggested a family dinner to discuss the transition. I've made reservations at Giovanni's, I announced. That's expensive, Derek objected. It's my treat, my last hurrah before moving out. At dinner, once the wine started flowing, Richard became chatty. You know, once we renovate, this house could easily sell for double what the current offer is. Is that so? I sipped my water while recording everything. The market in this area is booming. That developer wants to build 3 townhomes on the lot. 3? I feigned surprise. Melissa only mentioned 1. Melissa kicked her father-in-law under the table, but he was too deep into his 3rd glass of wine. 1 townhome wouldn't be worth the investment. The whole plan is to demolish that outdated house and maximize the property value. Dad, that's enough business talk, Derek interjected nervously. Nonsense. Alina should know she's getting a fair deal. 10% of the final sale is generous considering she doesn't even know what the property's worth. I nearly choked. 10% of my own house? Barbara patted my hand condescendingly. It's more than fair. Most seniors your age would be grateful for any financial consideration. After dinner, I excused myself to make a phone call and walked outside. I'd noticed a man watching our table all night, the same man whose photo I'd seen on Richard's business website. I approached his table. You must be Thomas, Richard's business partner. He looked startled. How did you... I've done my homework. Tell me, does your development company always steal properties from elderly women? Or is this a new venture? Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Look, I was told this was a straightforward family arrangement. Nothing straightforward about fraud. Would you like to know what your partner really has planned? Or would you prefer the police ask you instead? Thomas paled. What do you want? Information. Every detail of your deal with my son-in-law, starting now. After my conversation with Thomas, I spent 3 days gathering evidence. The morning I was supposed to leave, I asked everyone to meet in the living room. Before I go, I wanted to thank you all for your concern about my living situation. Richard checked his watch impatiently. The movers will be here in an hour. Actually, there won't be any movers today. I pulled out a folder and laid documents on the coffee table. This is the deed to my house. This is the fraudulent listing agreement with your forged signatures, and these are police reports I've filed for fraud and elder abuse. The color drained from Melissa's face. Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You plan to sell my home, pocket 90% of the profits, and dump me in some facility. Thomas explained your entire scheme. Richard stood up angrily. Now see here. No, you see here. I played the recording from dinner. Their faces fell as Richard's slurred voice detailed their plan. I've already spoken with the district attorney about your history of real estate fraud in Florida. Derek tried a different approach. This is just a misunderstanding. Save it. These are eviction notices. You have 48 hours to leave. Melissa started crying. Mom, please. We can work this out. We're family. Family doesn't try to steal from each other or forge signatures. I'm sorry. We made a terrible mistake. Your mistake was thinking I was too old and stupid to fight back. Richard grabbed his coat. This is ridiculous. Barbara, we're leaving. Yes, you are. And the police want to speak with you about those falsified documents. As they packed, Melissa made one last attempt at reconciliation in the kitchen. Mom, I got caught up in Derek's parents' plan. Please forgive me. Some things can't be fixed with an apology. You were willing to make me homeless for money. What am I supposed to do? Where will we go? That's not my problem anymore. 2 days later, the house was empty. I changed the locks, installed a security system, and hung a new sign. No trespassers. Violators will be prosecuted. That evening, I invited Sandra and Marcus over for dinner. We sat in my reclaimed dining room, glasses raised. To new beginnings, Marcus said. And to good friends who stand by you when family doesn't, I added. Sandra smiled. So what's next for you, Alina? I'm turning those extra bedrooms into an art studio. I've always wanted to try painting. As we laughed and planned for the future, I felt lighter than I had in years. My home was truly mine again, and I'd learned a valuable lesson about boundaries, even with family. What would you have done if you were Alina? Would you have completely cut off your daughter after such a betrayal? Or would you have eventually given her a second chance? Is there any apology or action that could repair a relationship after someone tries to make you homeless for their own gain? If you enjoyed this story of justice and standing up for yourself, please hit that like button and subscribe for more compelling stories about overcoming life's challenges. Share your thoughts in the comments below.